which is if it's important to connect, who should I connect with? But now I'm going to address you guys that are doing well. My question for you guys who are doing well is, what is your vision? What are you doing here? Now, if you're like me, I have this kind of cynical voice in my head. When people ask me that question, I'd be sitting there going, well, I'm sitting here listening to you. That's what I'm doing here. Now, there's no need to be quite as cynical as I get. But it's kind of a question that you might ask of a business. What is this business here for? What purpose does it serve? Where is it going? Whenever we talk about identity, we're always talking about a goal. We're always talking about moving towards something that you desire. And that's what that question is about. What do you desire? What do you deeply value? In 18 months' time from now, if your life was operating in more or less exactly the way you wanted it to run, what would you be doing? Think of it a bit like a photo. What's in this photo? What are you doing? How are you exercising your gifts and your passions? And in this photo, who are you serving? So you see, the second question that we're now embarking on is this: who is it important to connect with? The first person to connect with, if you're doing well, is actually you. What are your values? What's your destination? Where are you going? What's your vision? This is really important that you connect with yourself. The second person that you have to connect with is God. This vision that you have is to be merged with and abide by God himself. There's a great opportunity there because we know that a lot of our purposes and values come from our spiritual relationship. So the second person to connect with there is God. The first person for you to connect with is yourself. The second person, God. And the third person that you have to connect with is someone else. And here is your greatest opportunity, because if you are doing well, the opportunity that you have in front of you is to mimic the gospel story itself. God came down to earth. He lifted us up. Who will you lift up? Now, if you don't have any ideas, I'm really keen for you to eavesdrop on this next conversation. Oh, you know, I once went to a coffee shop. I won't tell you which suburb, lest you run into me in that suburb eavesdropping on people. But it was, it was an accident. I can't say that I was a victim in the circumstances, but this is how the conversation went that I ended up eavesdropping on. I went to get my latte. Sorry, that's what I drink. At the risk of sounding snobby, that's what I drink. And as I sat down, the girl behind me was speaking to her girlfriend, and she said, he is doing really well for himself. And then she wafted off in the conversation. And I just thought, isn't that the most fascinating phrase? He is doing really well for himself. He, blah, 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 blah. I think they went on to talk about how he was building some middle-sized medical kingdom. But he's doing really well for himself. Now, this isn't a Christian idea. Wouldn't it be exciting if you ran into Christians and they were talking about another Christian and that person said, he is doing really well for others. He, blah, 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 blah. You see the difference? If we're properly going to mimic the biblical story when we're doing well, then we go down to lift someone else up. Now, I'm keen for you, if you are short on ideas about who to lift up, I'm keen for you to eavesdrop on this next conversation. So there are 3 points of contact. Just to summarise my message for you guys for this second question, there are 3 points of connection. You've got to connect with yourself. What's my vision? This actually comes from Solomon. I'll read it for you if you like. It's one of the Proverbs. Where there is no vision, this is Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. It's ancient wisdom. This isn't new psychological wisdom. This is ancient wisdom. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So someone there has a vision, they have a vision, but he that keeps the law. You feel that abiding by, so there's a connection with self, but there's also a vertical connection as well. All right, so the 3 points of connection for you guys are doing well. Connect with yourself, connect with God, connect with someone else. And now I'm going to address the second, smaller part of this population of people here. Now, it occurs to me in this gathering, you guys, it's kind of like I don't know if it's self-selecting, but there's going to be an over-representation of people who are doing well here. Either you got your finances under control for this conference, which means, well, you're not that stressed, and you're the sort of person who's kind of organised, or you were quite assertive and you went to your boss and you said, I need to go to this conference, pay up. So either which way, the chances are that you're probably doing well. So nonetheless, there are going to be some who are going to be struggling here today, but if this doesn't apply to you, what I want you to think of is people in your workplaces or people that you know who are doing it tough. Now, the same question that we have, that we're entertaining for this second group of people is, who should I connect with? And the same sort of answers apply. If you're doing it tough, you should connect with yourself. Are you stressed? Well, chances are that things are a little bit out of your control, and you've got to ask yourself, what is out of control? If you're anxious, you're likely to be making predictions that something bad is about to happen. What do you think is bad? What bad thing do you think is about to happen? But one of the things, the other emotion, the primary emotion that I think needs to be addressed, comes out of a condition of learned helplessness, which I think a lot of professional people, particularly early in their careers, are subject to. The term was originally coined by Martin Seligman in 1967. It comes out of a series of experiments, actually on dogs, that were on electrified floors. The dogs were unable to predict when an electrical current would cease, and because they were unable to predict and they had no choices and they had no power, they ended up being this whimpering little mess in the corner, totally defeated. Now, I spoke earlier about how everyone loves James Herriot. But in the program, All Creatures Great and Small, if it was actually going to represent reality in the life of a vet, I don't think he would have come across so squeaky clean if he was going to represent a real vet, particularly early in his career. In fact, he so often presented well, it was quite remarkable. But I think if he was going to depict a vet early in his career, he would have actually appeared quite dishevelled at different times. And I think he actually would have been enduring a lot of stress at different times, to the point where friends and family and even colleagues would have been quite worried about him as a person and how he's going. He would have reported working long hours, not 40 hours a week, that's a dream come true, but 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, 60 plus hours a week. So in this program, All Creatures Great and Small, he should have come across as dishevelled, maybe he didn't shower as much as he should, but he's really, really tired. But on top of that, he reports a lot of isolation and a lot of responsibility that he wasn't expecting. He was expecting to get paid more than he's actually getting. And he has this sense that the buck stops with him a lot of the time. He has to fix it. He has to save the animal. There is no referral. There is no phone for a consult. There is no phone a friend. There's none of that. It's up to him, and he's going to fix it. Low levels of control, high levels of responsibility. He doesn't have many choices, but he has high levels of responsibility. This is the definition of learned helplessness. I once came across a person who I will call Jill. Jill was a lovely person, an intelligent person, and undertaking a lot of activities in her life, a lot of responsibilities, family, friends, academia, work, a whole lot of things. And I asked Jill, goodness, is it sustainable? And Jill said to me, well, it has to be. High levels of responsibility, low levels of choice or control. That's the definition of learned helplessness, inescapable stress. The prognosis for this sort of predicament is not good. Research out of Curtin University in 2008 in the Australian Veterinary Journal showed that suicide rates for veterinarians in Australia is 4 times what it is for the average Australian. Research out of the University of Western Australia in 2009 suggested that there is a clear trend towards increasing levels of distress, anxiety and depression, particularly in those who have recently graduated. They did a survey and they got over 2,000 respondents, and from those 2,000 respondents, 1/3 of them reported significant amounts of psychological distress. Now, there's a range of explanations in the research literature about this. There was one research paper that suggested lack of technical skill is what contributed to the high levels of distress. 75% of Australian veterinarians saw that their level of stress came directly from their workplace, and 50% of Australian vets reported having felt quite fatigued or tired in the past month. Now, I don't want to say it's all doom and gloom, but I do want to say this is a real shot across the bow of the ship for you guys. You must take this seriously. If this gets worse, it will be near on a disaster. I want to say it's not catastrophic yet. This isn't a palliative situation, but it is something to take seriously. It's comparable to other professions, medical doctors and dentists, but there's one clear difference that I see, as far as I can tell, and it'd be worthwhile you guys reflecting on this yourselves. Young doctors have high levels of responsibility. That's not that unusual. So do dentists. Young doctors need skills, technical skills that they haven't worked out yet, and they need support for that, and so do dentists. But it appears to me that, as an outsider looking in, these guys may be less isolated than you guys. These guys get to say, can you help me with this? Or those guys, medical doctors and dentists, get to say, can you actually do this? Because it's too much responsibility for me. And that is a real relief to them, even though the same demands are being placed upon them.